In December of 1993, I got to travel with a study group from Oklahoma Baptist University to Israel for 14 days. It was a fantastic trip and has provided multiple sermon illustrations over the years. On this particular day, we had gone up on the top of Mount Arbel, which sits on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. It's the high point on the western shore. It gives this incredible view of Magdala and Bethsaida and Capernaum and the Mount of the Beatitudes and this whole area in which Jesus' Galilean ministry was primarily located. And we were up there and looking out, and our guide, Saliba, was pointing out various things to us. And at the end of this kind of talk, he said, well, there are two different ways we can go down. You can either ride in the big motor bus, or there's actually a hiking trail down the side of the mountain that goes along the lake, and so you can hike down the mountain. And so quite a few of us, particularly the younger ones, decided to hike down the mountain, and other people decided to ride the motor bus. Well, it was a glorious view of the Sea of Galilee, of the surrounding countryside, which even in winter was quite beautiful. And we were really enjoying ourselves as we came down the mountain. Until we realized that our guide, Saliba, and he had a history of doing this over the course of this trip, had kind of miscalculated the amount of time hiking down the mountain was going to take. When we began to realize that it wasn't quite as bright as it had been, and was slowly getting darker. So Saliba left the group of us that were at the front and hurried back to find those who were straggling to both hurry them up and to help them. So 4 college-age boys, probably around 20 years old, are in the vanguard of this group, hiking down the side of a mountain as darkness falls. We have no gear. We have no flashlights. We are in a foreign country. We have no idea where this trail ends, what kind of place we are going to end up in, whether it is one that will be friendly to us or not, and so you can imagine the anxiety. Well, we were fortunate that the trail was a pretty well-developed trail, and where the rock had been crushed, it was a few shades lighter than the rock on either side. And so from the moon and the stars and the little light we got, we would walk gingerly a few feet ahead of us that we could see where was the rock lighter colored than the other. Unfortunately, that seemed to work and get us down the mountain. We were finally quite relieved when we did get to flat ground, except now, with no guide and not knowing where to go, and the trail having ended, and the bus not being right there at the end of the trail, do we go left, do we go right, do we go forward? And we were pretty anxious at that point, until one of us heard in the distance that low rumble that big motor or touring buses have, and we made our way to it, and we're home and safe, and everyone else made it down the mountain. Okay. That wasn't the only problem like that to occur on that trip. But a vivid memory of mine of what it means to be in that dark place, to be on that path that one needs to be guided. And so tonight we come to the 23rd Psalm, this most familiar of biblical passages, one that does not need a lot of introduction or explanation. I think the images and the metaphors of this passage just grasp you. You understand them without me trying to explain Middle Eastern husbandry practices or something. You don't need that to understand what is being said in this passage. The worship guides this week said, preacher, resist the urge to talk about the text. Just let the text talk for itself. That's one reason we read it 3 different times, so that the words might kind of play over you and through you and with you, and you might resonate with these images and ideas that are so familiar to you. The basic message in this psalm is that God is one we can trust. That God is with us when we're in want, when we're in need, when we hunger, when we thirst, when our valleys are dark, when we are facing death, when we are facing enemies, when we are lacking. God is always with us, and God will see us through to calm waters, to green pastures, to the overflowing cup, to the abundant table, and to a long life in the house of God. What a powerful message of comfort and strength. When I came as pastor of this church 5 years ago this week, we had been subsidized by the Cathedral of Hope in Dallas the year before to the tune of about $36,000. And so over the course of the last 5 years, through being very tight with what we spent money on, by continuing to reduce budgets, and by increasing giving. And if you remember the 5-year annual reports we give at the annual meeting every year, you know that giving has gone up every year in this congregation. But over the course of that 5 years, we had slowly been narrowing that gap. 6 months ago, we were in a situation due to the financial recession and other causes that we were over $7,000 in debt. We had at various times last year fallen behind on every single bill or item we owe money to. We just had to triage and were paying as we could. It was very difficult, very stressful. I number some of the gray hairs that have appeared here by various financial reports. In October of last year, only 6 months ago, we faced the very real question of, will this congregation continue? Or do we need to celebrate what God has done in us and through us over the previous 9 years? Hearts and minds have been changed in this city. The religious landscape for particularly LGBT Christians, but other progressive Christians, had changed a lot since 1999 when this church first began to form. We had made substantial changes in the life of this community. People who were hurting and in need had found liberation, healing, and transformation. And so we had had a wonderful ministry. God had used us to fulfill a mission. And we knew full well 6 months ago that God's mission would be fulfilled, whether through this group of people called together or through some other way. God's mission would not be thwarted, but was it time for this church to close? And we had a congregational meeting, and we knew immediately the answer to that was no. That God still had work that God was going to do through this group of people called together. And so we kind of took a vote, but it was more than a vote. It was a pledge to be present in worship, a pledge to commit our service, a pledge to give even something to try and help with the financial part of the problem. We knew that wasn't the core problem. At root, there was a spiritual issue. There was an issue about mission and ministry. And we appointed task forces, and we've worked hard for 6 months to think about what might this church do different or more effectively, or what might God be calling us to do in the second decade of our life together that we haven't done in the first decade of our life together. And we've done really hard work. And we've moved to this new location, and there's new energy and spirit. And some old friends have come back, and new friends have come. And we have still more and more to do.